Hi, everybody. Rick DiClemente with Astrology Unplugged. Welcome to episode number 117. And in case you want to browse through them all, you can go to my website, which is starself.com. And now there's a button that takes you to all of the videos I've ever made, over 150 of them. And you can click on them. You can read about what each one, including all 116 episodes of Astrology Unplugged. If you want to join us on Thursday nights, you can go to the same website to click on the link, or simply go to Google and type in Astrology Unplugged, which always appears live on Thursday nights at 8 o'clock Eastern. Tonight I'm going to repeat something I did a long time ago, and then we're going to get into some planetary talk. In the year 1969, I can remember, well, I was in Morgantown, going to WVU, and I remember reading a Time magazine article. And I have followed it ever since. And the article was about how people, this is not necessarily astrological, but that's okay. And I covered this on night number 1 of this show. How people have one part of their mouth that's upturned versus another part, rather than just even. And also how people can have one eye more closed than the other. And I have followed this very closely for almost 50 years now. So there's a lot to it. I picked out some examples for you to see. You got to be very careful when you're doing this, that you don't jump the gun and start making assumptions that aren't there. The theory in mind here is, and this was in the Time article in 1969, the theory is that when you are born, you are very symmetrical. The baby's eyes are the same size. The face overall is symmetrical. The lips come out to the same distance. One is not higher than the other. And as you grow older, it's not true all the time. There are a lot of exceptions. As you grow older, remember that the logical part of your mind controls your right face. The left part of your brain, the logical thinking, controls the right part of your brain, or the social face that you put on is controlled by the thinking mind. How you really feel, right brain, shows up on the left side of your face, your left eye, your left part of your mouth. So it's very, very common with most people as you grow older that your right side of your mouth will curl up more than your left side. Politicians, almost always, they're always pursed lips because they're so conscious of being skunked and somebody gets a snapshot of them looking terrible that they have to look at forever. So they're very tight-lipped, very pursed lips, controlling it. So the theory is that as you grow older, and there are other reasons, but as you grow older, once you're trying to fake out people, you're trying to control and show them that you're happier than you are, the right side of your face will start to come up while the left side of your face is controlling what's going on. And when you start to watch this for a while, you'll start to notice something really interesting. And I see it all the time. It'll take you a little while to get it. A lot of times people are talking, especially a politician or a public figure, and they start to laugh. And the right side of the mouth starts to come out. Wait, I'm sorry. They start to laugh. The real side, okay, the real side is the left side. The left side starts to come up. The right side stops it. The mind says, is this okay? And it says, yes, continue. You'll see the left side come up, stop, and then continue up. You'll see it all the time because you're checking to see, is this advisable? Am I going to look stupid if I laugh? Remember, this side of your face is how you really feel. Now, if you want to get a real good estimation of how somebody feels, look at their left side of their face with your left eye. Close your right eye, look at the other person's left side of their face, and you will see a completely different self as if you were to look with your right eye at their left side. Okay? Now I'm going to show you an example here. This is kind of a silly one, but this is a silly one, but I want you to, you'll get the idea here. Okay, here I went through the web and I pulled out an awful lot of faces. We're going to go back through these. I want you to take a look at, oh, he just got nailed, didn't he? Talk about a phony Libra, huh? Look at that side of the face. Look at that. That's the happy face he wants to show everybody. This is the real self. And if you put a mirror across his face, you put a mirror right here, you will see a completely different person when you have two lefts or two rights, which is indicated here by this guy, Bob Ross. Now, Bob Ross, as you know, has been on PBS for many, many years, teaching people how to paint. And as you can see, this is a mirror copy. He did it with Photoshop of his face. And this is a little bit off, you notice, because his neck is very thin here, and his neck is very wide here. But it does give you the idea what two lefts of your face look like versus two rights of your face. Okay? And it's very interesting to even do it to yourself. You can take a photo of yourself straight on and put a mirror here, and you will see a complete difference with two lefts versus two rights. So, it doesn't mean you're a con man. It doesn't mean you're up to no good. But generally, like if you look at somebody who's seasoned, who's been around a long time, who's been beat up a pretty good bit, almost always the left eye is squintier. The left eye is much more closed than the right eye. The left eye is matching how the person really feels. The right eye is controlled by the left brain, what I want to project. I want you to take a look here at Bill Cosby. Now, yes, he is an extreme. Take a look at his left and right eye. You see what I'm talking about? And you can go watch him from the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, and you will watch and see that left eye gets smaller, the opening, through the years. You go back in the 60s, and these two eyes pretty much match. Now, his lips are pretty straight. He's got his head tilted. So we don't see it with the lips, but we see it with the eyes here. Okay? That's usually an indication, of a personality who's at war inside. Okay? For whatever reason. And usually the war is, what am I going to show you versus who I am? Now, I will show you many other examples here. Okay, you can see he's been in the news an awful lot lately. Look at the left eye, how closed it is. Barely, barely open. The right eye is more open. Okay, and he's in Aries. And one of the things that you learn through studying this is some people, the left eye is so barely open, that is an indication that they've almost got the entire world cut out. They don't listen to the world. They're not open to the world. All they listen to is their internal dialogue. Okay? You'll see these marvelous people, Julia Roberts, Sally Fields, these marvelously powerful, integrated people grow older and they stay nice and even. Okay, there's many, many reasons for these things. Let's just start by going through some of the facial shapes. All right, we're talking now about the lips. Okay, here's a guy, I don't know who he is. Here's a guy, notice how the right corner of his mouth is higher than the left. This has grown permanently through his life. It's a permanent facial fixation. And this is very common. Doesn't mean he's crooked, but it does mean that he likes to put up a face that doesn't necessarily match who he is. It's very common, this kind of face. It's very uncommon to see somebody perfectly lined up. Another thing I've noticed, early signs of the zodiac: Aries, Taurus, Gemini, especially Aries and Taurus, almost always have even eyes and even mouth. Even eyes, even mouth. Why is that? To me, it's because they're relatively simple signs, and what you see is who they are. What you see is who they are. We're not evaluating how you are, but we're evaluating the difference between what you're projecting versus what you really feel about yourself. Now we'll go on. Here's a really good example of this beautiful actress. Do you notice how she's pretty even? She's leaning a little bit up on that side. The eyes are pretty even. This is a strong indication that she's really pretty much what she projects. These are indications to your subconscious mind to trust her. With this other guy, your indication is to be a little wary because of this slant. Now, I've looked at thousands and thousands of people, especially while they're talking, and you start to get a feel for this. Okay, look at this woman. She's one of America's most beautiful actresses, rated in some polls as the most beautiful actress in the world. Look at her right side. She's a Scorpio. Right side of her mouth curls up. Okay, the eyes, she's young. She's in her 20s. So the eyes match pretty good. But already you're starting to see the right side is starting to permanently be fixed higher than the left side. I don't know this actor's name. Seeing the same thing here. The eyes are still pretty even. The right side is starting to curl up more than the left. I'm bad at remembering names. Okay, here's another actor. The left side. This is to show you that sometimes you get the opposite. And I don't know why this is. Sometimes the left side curls up more than the right side. The eyes are pretty even. He's pretty young. But sometimes you will see the opposite.
I couldn't find a song with the lyrics this is to share you, but sometimes you get the opposite, and I don't know why this is. Sometimes Alexa.
This is Alexa talking to us.
The eyes are pretty even.
Alexa, stop. Alexa, try to find a song that matched that whole name there. Ooh. Alexa, go to sleep.
Here's a station.
Alexa, stop.
On Amazon Music.
Alexa, stop. Thank you very much. We're living in a world of robots. I wonder if her lips are curled or what. Okay, look at his lips. This is very common. Starting to curl up more on the right side. It comes from years and years and years of doing it. Now you will see people talk to you, and you'll be able to see this. You can actually sense the brain, which is the left side. You actually sense the brain's controlling what this right side is doing while they're talking to you. After you watch this for a while, you'll start to see that the mind is controlling what this half is doing, while this half is very much under the control of this half. This half is how he's really feeling, Kevin Costner. Very intriguing. Okay, let's go on. Look at her after all the years and all the things she's been through. A Cancer. She's really pretty balanced. The eyes are pretty balanced. The cheeks are balanced. I'm not talking about any plastic surgery. Look at the eye. The lips are pretty balanced. And being an emotional Cancer, she pretty much is healthy with the way she feels and what she expresses. So Meryl Streep is a really good example of a nice balance there. Oh, boy, look at this guy. I think I got two of him. Whoa, Mr. Harvey Weinstein. See? Look at that. Look at that eye's actually more closed than this one. And it's usually this side that's more closed. So I'm not sure what that means. But this is somebody, usually, not always, but it's somebody usually that's manipulating. okay, because he's constantly trying to look more favorable than he really is. This is not uncommon. You're going to see a couple pictures here that are going to shock you. Look at that. Now, I like the guy. I think real highly of him. But there are very few people I've seen in public life that are more upturned than he is. He's got such tremendous control of this side. If you watch him talk, that whole side will go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Really exercise. This part is pretty constant. He is a Scorpio, but he seems to be a really good one. But he's really to be noted because you really see a dramatic difference with him. The way he can use this like an accordion, this side. Notice the eye is growing shut, but I think that's just because the lip is so upturned. Look at that, and in his lately for bribery, Mr. Libra in Israel. Look at that, okay? A good example of putting up the front, and this is the real self. I went looking for good pictures of Putin. Man, he's got a frightening face. I could not find a good example of what I was talking about with the leader of Russia. This guy, this is the typical type of face that makes you wonder. Now look here, this eye's starting to close, and this one is more open, but again, I think it's because the lips are upturned. This is very common with all the pictures you see of him. This guy, I think he's an actor. I don't know who he is, but I just wanted to show you sometimes you get the opposite. Sometimes. I don't know why. I don't know why, but he's really tilted to the left side. Very unusual. So when you're doing this, when you're noticing, stay very loose and objective, because you're going to be needing to see thousands of faces before you really get the idea. Look at Harrison Ford, okay? And I've noticed him through the years. Through the years, this has become more and more and more elevated. Now, if I cover this half of the face, cover it over, he's not smiling at all. This side of the face is not smiling. This side wants you to think he is. That's what I'm talking about. Very intriguing. I don't know who he is. He must be a politician. But you can see the right corner is uplifted. Another famous actor, look at the right corner, uplifted. Of course, actors have great control of their facial muscles. I don't know who he is, but it's just another example that's very common, and it's much more common in men than it is in women. Again, we talked about that. There's Mr. Wonderful Ted Bundy, the Sagittarian. Look how dead that right eye is. Really scary. The right lip is up. The eyes are pretty even, but that's a scary, soulless look for this serial killer. And the right part of his lip is way up. He was very social, by the way. Look at Mr. Hannity. Hannity's a real good example if you watch him when he talks on Fox. Look at that lip, how it's permanently stuck there. He's looking at you. He thinks he's looking at you straight. He's not looking at you straight. He's controlling. This is the mental control. And this is the real self. This is the mental control. But the lips are not straight, they're crooked. In the other one about the mouth, we saw Cosby. Okay, we see Bolton. I zoomed in on Bolton here. Do you see the difference? See, his head is a little tilted, but the left eye is definitely more closed than the right eye. And once this starts, the left eye usually gets more and more and more closed, and it won't ever open again. When I did a lot of criminal research, a lot of criminals, the left eye was almost closed, because that's the real self, and mirrors the fact that they're kind of closed off to the world around them. This was the pièce de résistance, the ultimate phony. Look at this. Look at his left eye and right eye. This left eye is almost closed. Look, his lips are going backward, but the eyes are the secret here. And once again, when you look at young people, when you look at children, you almost always see balance. And there can be Bell's palsy. There can be different reasons. Who knows? But in general, I just encourage you to start watching it, start looking with still photographs and real discussions. And I think you'll be really surprised. I know I haven't stopped for about 50 years of watching it. Any questions on that? Yeah, can I unmute you? Yeah.
Yeah, I just, can you go over that one more time, just really quickly, in terms of the left side of the brain controls the right side of the face?
Okay. The right side of the face is the one that tends towards phoniness.
Okay.
It's being controlled by the mind, and the mind is assessing the social situation, and the mind is saying, you better look like this. Versus the right side, how you really feel, which shows up in the left side. So this side of the face is more aligned with how you really do feel. That's why most people, this part of the lip is upturned more, because we're projecting to the world. We think we got to project to the world a smilier face than we have.
Okay.
So the left side of the brain, good.
Okay, and the eye, what's the significance
of the eye? The significance of the eye, it's almost always through time, the left eye starts to close. Did you see Bill Cosby's? And did you see the guy I was looking up today, the guy that went away for a long time for SEC violations, Madoff? The left eye starts to close. Because
why?
Because the left eye matches the right brain. The right brain is how you feel.
Okay.
You don't feel good. So the left eye starts to close. You become depressed. You're not optimistic. Optimistic people have great big eyes. I had a girl today, wonderful reading for this woman, Sun next to Jupiter. And she was just big, bright eyes and then eager, 30 years of age. And she had great, big, wide open eyes. Everything was nice and even because she has not been jaded. Okay? Most people you see, they're pretty even. But you'll start to see people, like if you got pictures of people at 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, you'll see, and a lot of people, like relatives, you'll start to see that left eye starts to shut. Very rarely will it start to open again. The right corner of the mouth starts to go up.
So it closes automatically because of why?
It's not closing automatically. Okay? In the case of the mouth, you're telling the mouth not to smile or to smile. You're controlling it. It's combativeness between the left brain and the right brain. And
okay.
The same with the eyes. The same with the eyes. The eyes are more of a, what am I interested in? A child is, what do they call it? Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. They're open, they're experiencing. And a criminal who's been beat on for a long time has a lot of suffering, or somebody's an alcoholic, their eyes will start to close because they have such sadness, so much fighting going on inside. So once again, you want to look for, is the left eye starting to close down? Is the right side of the lip going up? You look at wonderful Scorpios that I'm always talking about, two of them, Sally Field and Julia Roberts. Both of their eyes are very healthy, both wide open, both matching, the lip is straight across. Very symbolic of a person who feels the way they look. Yes, Renate, let me unmute you, dear. Yeah.
But isn't that getting smaller eyes a question of age?
No,
I feel I'm.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm talking about doing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. There's natural aging there, yes, of course. But reason says that they would get smaller at the same rate. I'm talking about through time when you start to see the left one closing compared to the right one. Did you see Bill Cosby? I mean, that's almost closed compared to the one open. And you might even say to yourself, they can't stand to look at the world anymore because they've had so much torture, so much stress. Anyhow, I wanted you to know about this. And I followed it for a long time. You will have exceptions, but I encourage you to start looking. Look at still photographs, look at people while they're talking, and you'll gain a lot from this. And the one that's really neat to watch is when this side starts to go up, this one catches it and says, it's okay, and then this one goes all the way up.
I have a friend, I have a friend, I think her left side is going so much up all the time. It's irritating me completely.
Her left side?
But she is feeling different than what she is talking. That's my feeling.
Well, that's very rare that the left side is more elastic. It's usually the right side. But I don't know the answer to all these questions. I just encourage you to watch it. And remember that the feeling side is controlling the left side of the body. That's why so many people have strokes and so many people have seizures. It affects the left side because the right side is the feeling side of the body and it affects the left side of the body greatly. Okay? All right. Now we're going to move on. Hope nobody has a stroke while I'm talking. All right. Thank you now. All right. Now, tonight I want to talk to you about some things I've been hearing. And I want to go over some astrological principles with you. Recently, I heard somebody talking about the moon was on their Uranus. The moon was on their Uranus. And they were trying to translate what the moon meant on their Uranus. All right. What was really happening was transiting moon was crossing over the natal Uranus. And why would you worry about the transiting moon going over Uranus when it's going to be gone in about 2 hours? It's completely different when Uranus is going over the moon, which is going to last, it's going to stay in that sign for 7 years. So you really can't write this off as, oh, this is old-time astrologers and they work with pencils and they really are used to working hard. No, you got to understand what I'm saying. You got to get a feeling for how fast these planets are moving. Today I had a woman. I told you I'm reading for the woman. I'm going back, she's 30, so I rewound in my mind to age 28 to her Saturn return. And I wanted to see what happened to her during her Saturn return, because it's usually a time when you're maturing and you're growing up. Well, she's very mature. She's grown up. She's doing well. She starts to talk about, oh, it was wild. I went to Burning Man. Well, you don't go to Burning Man during a Saturn return. You go to Burning Man during Uranus transits, right? You have to know this stuff. You got to get the feel of these planets. These planets are not going to do something outside their nature. You're going to watch some figure burning in the sky, and while these freaks are out there burning all their other stuff, and everybody's flipping out during a Uranus transit. So I looked, and she was an early Taurus. And right around that time, Uranus had just entered Taurus. So she had Uranus entering Taurus at the same time, generally, that her Saturn return was going on. So that's hard to do in astrology, but sometimes two things are happening at once. So as she's starting in general to mature herself, she says, time out, I'm going to go to Burning Man. And what happened when she was at Burning Man was it was a rite of passage, and in Uranian fashion, she was able to break through Uranus, break through from a lot of restraints that she had received between her and her mother. So the key there was she's describing an event that didn't match the planet. What happened during your Saturn return? I went to Burning Man. Oh, no, you didn't. I mean, you went to Burning Man, but you didn't go because of Saturn. How many people are going to go to Burning Man to learn how to grow up? Like nobody. So I looked, and there was Uranus. And when two planets are on you at once, you got to just look closer, like zoom in on it. So now Uranus is backed up into Aries. 6 more days, Uranus is going back into Taurus. It's going to stay there for 7 years. It went into Taurus, it came out, it's going back in because the retrograde motion is common. Like I've told you, the outer planets go forward for 7 months, backward for 5 months, forward for 7 months, backward for 5. Very common. So the second and third passes that she'll get of Uranus over her sun will get easier because the first pass is always the rockiest because you're not used to this wild man that's just moved into your house. It's crazy. Uranus is a crazy energy. So in her case, I listened, and when she talked about fire and being reborn and wild in her art and singing and playing, I knew that was the Uranus. When she talked about settling down, getting engaged to a lawyer, buying a home, I knew it was talking about the Saturn part. Okay? You have to learn to listen. And we're really not trying to teach you that many different kind of energies. Pluto, the big, deep, passionate one, wants you to mean more, intensity. Neptune, the real gradual, George Harrison, Ravi Shankar, kind of smooth, Maharishi, meditative, clouds, God. Uranus, the wild man. Think of Tesla sticking his finger in a wall socket. Bzzz. That's Uranus. Saturn, calm down, let's get things to work. We're not talking about that many energies here. Now, we do have a new guy on the block, 2 of them. Eris, who's really radical. She's really stirring things up. She'll take a long time for us to get a handle on. And Chiron, we're still learning about Chiron since 1977. So let me give an example. Let's pull out, I'm in an ornery mood. Let's pull out Waldo's chart. What do you say? I'm sure Waldo is a sport. He's a sport. Waldemar. Okay, there we go. Just as an example. Okay, Mr. Waldemar, got you okay? Thank you, sir. I knew you'd be game. Okay, now, what I'm trying to say to you is you can't get used to the rickshaw. I'm not going to explain everything to you. You need to start understanding how fast these planets move. Now, just an example. If the moon were going across Venus, if the moon were going, remember, this is the birth chart. This never changes. And in the middle, we lie about it, and we put the Earth in the middle. Western astrology is geocentric. We put the Earth in the middle. And we even go as far, we cheat so much, we even go as far as making the moon look as far away as Pluto is. Of course, Pluto's way out there, and the moon is real close. But for astrological purposes, we draw all these planets equidistant. Okay? This is fixed. As if you were up in the sky and you took a Polaroid of where the planets were the moment you were born. Now, the moon is 2.5 days, 2.5 days, 2.5 days, 28 hours, 28 hours, 28 hours, 28 days to go around, 28 days to go around. If we had 13 months, we would end up with 364 days in a year, and every month would be 28 days. So there's a real good argument to have a 28-day calendar, but you'd be all screwed up trying to keep track of how many months they're on. And Karen would kill me because every year I tell her how many days till Christmas, and then she gets mad at me and yells at me. Yes, you do. But you got to get in your mind here, if Pluto's going over something, usually when I talk and when most astrologers talk, the first planet they mention is the transiting body. Pluto's going over Mars. Okay, let me explain this to you. A natal chart is a snapshot of a bunch of transits locked in time. And that moment in time has a quality to it that's known as Elke. It's known as Marcia. The universe will never be in that same position again. Even Marcia having a twin brother born within minutes. The universe is not the same minutes later. The universe makes a statement. It's constantly changing. And the moment you were born, like I said in that book, you are an emissary of the nature of the moment that you were born in. The universe is making a statement, that split second, and you are the representation of how the universe was at that second. When a transit is hitting a transit, that's what we say. Well, today Jupiter's opposite Neptune. That means that today for everybody in the world, Jupiter out there and Neptune are opposite each other. Hey, today we got a full moon. That means in today's chart, not your chart, my chart, in today's chart we got a full moon. Hey, in 2026, Pluto's going to return back to where it was in the United States chart. Okay, in the US chart in 1776, Pluto was at 26 degrees of Capricorn. Fixed. 256 years later, Pluto is returning to the same spot compared to the natal chart of the US. So that's a transit versus a natal. But don't get confused and call a natal hitting a transit, because that's never the case. A natal planet doesn't move. So, let me give you another example using Waldo's chart. Okay, let's take something very real. What's going on with Waldo right now? Pluto is sitting right here, right now, not doing very much. Neptune is sitting right here, right now. It's not doing very much. Uranus is sitting at the end of Aries. It's kind of quiet too. Saturn is sitting at 18 degrees of Capricorn. It's about right here. Okay, so let's go back in time, a couple of years ago, when Saturn was going over his moon. About 2 years ago, about 2017, Saturn was going back and forth over this moon. And since it takes Saturn 28 months to go through one of these houses, Saturn was going back and forth over that moon. A moon in Sag is going to experience Saturn, because a moon in Sag is bubbly, it's carefree, it doesn't want to hear about restrictions. Saturn's the opposite. Saturn wants to buckle down and make things work. But that went on for a couple intense months, then it faded away, came back a couple more intense months. So what happened to you, Waldo, at that time? About 2 years ago when Saturn was on your moon. That's your family and your home. What happened in your life?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you don't have to respond if you don't want to. It's okay.
Just probably the regular mom and some issues, you know.
Okay, family issues.
Yeah, well, we'll more deep conversation with my mom, you know, like
Yes,
real
yeah.
getting to know.
Settling thing with your mother, issues with mom. Now, let me show you the opposite here. And that would have peaked 3 times during about a 1.5 year period. That would have peaked on you 3 times. First pass, second pass, third pass. I can give you the exact dates, and it'll be within a day or two. Now, let's look at the opposite. If the moon is going over Saturn, that's every month. Every month the moon goes over Saturn for a couple hours. Moon goes over Saturn. Moon goes over Saturn once a month. So they're completely different experiences. And you got to become very aware of what is a transit, what is a natal. Okay, let me go.
And I also have my granddaughter was born at that time.
Okay, very, very karmic, because Saturn is the planet of karma. Let me try somebody else here. Okay, let's see here. All right, stop share. Let me go to share. Let me go to here and quit here and go to unplugged. Okay, and let's go to Marcia. Okay, here's Marcia. We did a little work with her last week. Okay, in Marcia's case, Pluto's right now about 22. It's sitting here. Pluto is squaring her Neptune. Pluto's at 22 right now. Pluto's at 22, making a right angle to the Neptune. Well, that's not a real big deal because everybody in her high school class has Neptune around 21 of Libra, because Neptune doesn't move that fast. But what Pluto is doing to her Neptune, it's asking her to go deeper into her spirituality. It's asking her, questioning, what does your spirituality really mean to you? Pluto and Neptune. These planets, when they combine, they have a certain nature. Let's go to Neptune. Neptune now is sitting at 15, 16 right now. It's not hitting anything. It's not opposite anything. It's having a right angle to Mercury. We talked about this last week. So Neptune is hitting her Mercury, and Neptune's going to go back and forth all year long. It's going to peak when it's exact, but Mercury is not going over her Neptune. And if Mercury were going over her Neptune, that would last a couple days. If Mercury were going over Neptune. So you got to get these straight. But Neptune is right here back and forth. Now you have to ask yourself, Neptune is affecting the Mercury, and the Mercury in Sag, here's what I know about this. Me being born 2 days different than Marcia, I remember in 1975, Neptune went over my Mercury, and I told you this, Karen. Mercury in Sag is a very broad mind. It's very philosophical. It likes to talk. It likes to exaggerate. It likes to have fun, go overseas, exchange students, all this stuff. But I remember when Neptune hit my Mercury, all of a sudden all the walls in my mind fell down. Wow, I didn't even know there were walls. And they all fell down, and I felt the unboundedness of the mind, which is a phenomenal experience, especially if you're in the middle of meditating every day. So most people experience it as confusing or even psychotic. But I was one up on it because I had been doing a lot of meditation during those years, etc. So what I'm trying to say to you, Neptune doesn't need to do much work to get a Sagittarian Mercury to change. Because a Sagittarian Mercury is already, let's just go do what we want, and there are no limits. Neptune's no limits. Sagittarius is no limits. So you got a no-limit planet hitting a no-limit planet. That's why Marcia's not feeling all confused and all screwy right now. But even so, when Neptune is close, she's going to feel a little bit out of sorts and a little bit uncertain because Neptune doesn't follow any worldly rules. So what's happening to your mind now? Mercury is the way your mind works. And we know that your mind works, Mercury and Sag, very differently than your Capricorn sun does. Because your Capricorn sun and your Capricorn Chiron, they're very practical. But Mercury and Sagittarius could give a darn about practicality. Doesn't care about practicality. So what Neptune is doing to your Mercury, it's trying to show you that you're now ready for a deeper part of your mind that is in fact unbounded. And it's not a trick and it's not a story, it's real. It's the real thing. But this is different than before. When the guru touched you on the forehead and you saw black pearl or blue pearl, whatever that was, years ago you told me, touched you and you saw a pearl. This is the real deal. This is symbolic that you're now ready to give up the boundaries. Now, if you want to go crazy and psychotic, you give up the boundaries. But the healthy way is you see the boundaries, you're able to operate within the world of boundaries. At the same time, you can deal with the unbounded. But you got them both understood. You have them both in their place. That's what's happening to you now. You're opening up mentally, but you're in a position now where you're able to handle it. You got nothing to lose. You understand it, and it's a great symbol that you have your mind in perspective. Make sense? Okay, now I'm going to unmute Marcia here. Do you understand what I'm saying? So there's a way to play with your mind and be unbounded and be irresponsible, hang out on the beach and do drugs and get laid and get drunk. And that's irresponsible, and that's not the way you deal with Neptune. That's the way 50% of the 60s generation did, and they're the ones that did it wrong. Do you ever wonder how many people went through the 60s and didn't learn a damn thing spiritually? It's because they saw it as a party. And of course, I'm rounding off numbers. The other 50% saw it as spiritual learning and carried it with them and have had a great impact on the world. So, the Neptune, the slower moving body, the outer moving bodies are the big ones. They're the big ones that cause change. Now, if a little tiny planet like Mercury daily was transiting over your Neptune, you might have for 20 minutes of feeling kind of dreamy. That's about it. Minor, minor, minor. Okay? Take two medium planets. Say Saturn's going over your Jupiter. It's completely different than Jupiter going over your Saturn. Okay? Let me give you an example. All right. Marcia and I are born with Saturn widely opposite Jupiter. See that? Saturn opposite Jupiter. It's 9 degrees. So it's not very strong. Okay? Well, what it means is when you tighten your belt, Saturn, your Jupiter says, oh, why'd you tighten my belt? I was starting to have fun. And when you go have fun and throw confetti around, Saturn says, why are you out there wasting your time? So when you have the natal opposition between two planets, you have a fight between the planet of expansion and the planet of contraction. So it means that when Marcia and I are running a business, we're never comfortable. Should I invest more money or should I put up more money in the bank? Should I tighten my belt or should I loosen it? We're not natural at this. Now, if you and I had Jupiter and Saturn trine to each other, which means 4 signs away, a red line in between them. If we had Saturn and Jupiter 4 signs away, 1/3 of the circle, then we would just naturally know when to tighten our belt and would naturally know when to not. But when Jupiter is transiting over Saturn, when Jupiter is going over Saturn, or Jupiter is opposite Saturn, or Jupiter is the active planet squaring Saturn, where Saturn is the natal planet, then your Jupiter has charge. And Jupiter says what to Saturn? Hey, let's quit being so uptight. Let's relax. Let's trust a little more. Let's let the kid go to the bus stop without his heavy winter jacket and all his 4 coats on. Now, when Saturn is going over Jupiter, it's the opposite. Man, I keep sending the kid to the bus stop in his T-shirt. No wonder he's always sick. Let's be a little more careful, give him a heavier coat. So the transiting planet is the one that's very simple to know, is the one where you say to yourself, I don't know what's come over me. That's the transiting planet. I know what's come over me. Okay? But you have to get an idea of the speed. How long is it going to be there? So many times in my position, well, I'm kind of well known as an astrologer, I get people sending me this long list of all the planets hitting them. 3/4 of them that they're sending me are only going to last one day, and they're equating it with Pluto opposite my sun. Now, Elke's got Pluto opposite her sun. That's going to be for a long time. Pluto moves very slowly. It's going to be opposite her sun. Pluto's going to go back and forth across from her sun because Elke needs a lot of deep work unearthing herself, unstucking herself from the old way she used to be. And the fact is, she's now ready to do that kind of heavy-duty work with the jackhammer, right? The heavy-duty work. Now, another planet going by opposite her sun, like Mars, will be a couple days. She might get a fever. She might be irritated. So you have to get a sense of how fast these planets are moving. Okay? That's the main thing I wanted to bring up there. Now, what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to, for your comfort, I think I'm going to end the recording for now. Even though it's been an hour, I'm going to end the recording for us YouTubers and say goodnight to them so we can do things a little more personally, because I like to work with you personally also, not just always be theoretical. So good night, YouTubers, and thank you for joining us.